In their discussion with the police and government representatives, the farmer unions had promised that theirs would be a non-violent tractor march, that there would be 3 clearly demarcated routes, that they would follow the routes, and conditional permission was given for this grand tractor rally. But around 8 a.m. this morning, at the same time when the President and the Prime Minister were getting set to oversee the entire process, all the functions of our Republic Day, on these tractors, some of these protesters started marching into the national capital. They came very close to Lal Killa, so much so that they even unfurled the Khalsa flag on the ramparts of the Lal Killa, sending a message that this is their India. But the question that's being asked is, why did they not keep the promise that they made to the police and to the government? If they had said that this would be a non-violent march, and they had so much sympathy and goodwill from people across the country, not just in the capital but elsewhere, why squander it? Or was it always the case that their intention was to escalate in this menacing fashion and to ensure that there is violence and chaos on Republic Day on India's national capital? Take a look at our lead story.
Clashes, chaos, anarchy, a siege on the Red Fort on India's Republic Day. Never before seen images in the national capital as this tractor rally against 3 farm laws turned violent on Tuesday.
As you can see, hundreds of boys have decided to break the barricades and try and come outside.
The first clashes were reported around 8 a.m. at the Singhu border.
Kisan leaders and hundreds of thousands of farmers have decided to break the first line of barricades at the Singhu border and start moving out towards Delhi. You can see the police arrangements had been, massive police arrangements had been made, but they have not tried to, they're not even trying to stop the farmers right now.
Protesters restless at Ghazipur and Tikri borders as well.
पूरी सावधानी ना जा रहे हैं, कोई लड़बाजी नहीं हो रही, आराम ना जा रहे हैं.
जो रूट पुलिस ने दिया था वही फॉलो करेंगे कि कुछ और?
नहीं, वही करेंगे जी, जो पुलिस ने दिया है वही फॉलो करेंगे.
कंटेनर को पीछे पहले बैरिकेड को नाले में फेंका गया और अब जो है कंटेनर को सीधे सीधे उसको धक्का मार के हटाया जा रहा है. तो इस समय ये जो तस्वीर है सीधे आप देख सकते हैं गाजीपुर बॉर्डर से कि किस तरीके से पूरी तरह से रास्ताकशी चल रही है, टकराव चल रहा है इस वक्त.
But soon all hell broke loose as protesters began bursting through the barricades.
Farmers here at the Ghazipur border are very determined. They do not want to relent. They are breaking the barricades, trying to enter the national capital.
Protesters on tractors forced ahead of Akshardham, avoiding the planned U-turn and reaching the high-security ITO area via the Yamuna Bridge.
नोएडा बोर्ड पर भारी तादाद में किसान यहाँ पहुंचे बैरिकेड के पास और पुलिस आंसू गैस के गोले लगातार छोड़ रही है. आप देख सकते हैं कि उनको तितर-बितर करने के लिए थोड़ी देर पहले भी किसानों ने नोएडा बोर्ड पर बैरिकेड तोड़ने की कोशिश की थी. आप देख सकते हैं कि पूरा आंसू गैस के गोले छोड़े जा रहे हैं पुलिस जवानों को भगाने के लिए, क्योंकि किसान नोएडा मोड़ पर जो बैरिकेडिंग है उसको तोड़ करके दिल्ली की तरफ घुसने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं.
With barricades smashed, the mob hurled stones, attacked outnumbered police personnel with sticks and fought a pitched battle.
हम में और किसानों में थोड़ा सा डिस्टेंस हमने मेंटेन किया है क्योंकि बहुत भारी तादाद में, ये देखिए एक और आंसू गैस का गोला छोड़ा गया है पुलिस के द्वारा. कोशिश पुलिस बार बार यही कर रही है कि कुछ भी करके किसानों को अगर यहाँ से पीछे की ओर धकेला जा सके.
Farmers were also seen driving tractors dangerously and even trying to run over police personnel. A A large mob then drove to the Red Fort complex, laying siege to the monument and hoisting the Nishan Sahib, a flag sacred to Sikhs, at the Red Fort, on the ramparts used for Prime Minister's August 15th speech.
कि लाल किले पर पुलिस और प्रशासन की भारी तैनाती इस वक्त की गई है, लेकिन किसानों की संख्या यहां पर काफी ज्यादा दिखाई पड़ रही है और आप देख रहे हैं कि यहां उन्होंने अपना झंडा भी फहरा दिया है.
Later in the evening, as protesters retreated, there was fresh chaos in Nangloi as a massive container carrier was overturned by agitators. The situation remains tense. Bureau Report, India Today.
For a quick sense of the current situation on the ground in the national capital, I want to go across to our frontline reporter Aishwarya Paliwal. She was reporting in the heart of the chaos at the ITO intersection this morning. I was very scared seeing, what she is having to deal with. Aishwarya, describe from all the sources that you're speaking to the situation in the national capital at this moment. Have all the farmers who were at the Red Fort this morning now gone back to the borders? What are you picking up from the other places? Is there any place where at this moment there is a tense situation, or has peace been restored?
Well, Rahul, let me tell you, peace has been restored in the sense we do not see any kind of clashes or even any kind of conversation taking place between the police and the farmers. But yes, what is known as the heart of the national capital, Cannot Place, has been cornered off. Every exit and entry has been barricaded. The same goes for the Red Fort. All the areas, all the paths leading to the Red Fort have been barricaded. We also understand large number of police deployment will be there in the national capital tonight, and it will continue for the next few days. The Delhi police is on high alert. They are making sure no untoward incident takes place. But some farmers are still stuck, or rather they are there in the Red Fort. That's what we understand. But we are also understanding most of them will vacate by tonight later. Back to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Aishwarya. We'll come back to you for more later. I'm joined on the broadcast at this time, representing the ruling BJP by Gaurav Bhatia. Raghav Chadda represents the Aam Aadmi Party government in the national capital. We have Avik Saha, he's one of the farmer representatives, and we have Abhijit Iyer Mitra, who's got very strong views on what we've seen today. I want to go across first to Gaurav Bhatia first, because there is a certain number of questions that the central government needs to answer. One, could this have been avoided? How is it that these farmers were able to reach places like Red Fort, like ITO? Why was the arrangement by the local administration not more secure? You've now brought in additional deployments of paramilitary forces. Why wasn't this done earlier so that these tractors would never have been able to come into the heart of Delhi in the way that they did?
So Rahul, wishing you and all the viewers of India Today a very happy Republic Day. And I am one of those spokespersons I like to answer the questions.
And to you, Gaurav, a very happy Republic Day.
Thank you, Rahul. But today, as a citizen, I have a question for your channel and for you. In my hand is a video of one of the journalists, Mr. Rajdeep. He was reporting from the ground, Rahul. And I can play the video also. But when he was asked, do you think the situation will be diffused? And I'm quoting now because it is important that your organization goes about it. He said, the problem is that there is a dead body, which is there of an individual of one 24-year-old was driving one of the tractor, and he has been shot in the head, suffered a bullet injury, which has resulted in his death. They want answers who shot Naveen. And actually, I am telling you, after confirming, this is a case where a person was trying to chase stunts and his tractor turned a turtle. And Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, as a responsible journalist, I feel, should set an example for India Today and verify facts before he starts spreading such rumors. And therefore, I have only two things to say and ask of you. One, will your organization, India Today, take cognizance of this? Because this amounts to incitement. And second, what is the action that will be taken against it? If you will answer, and after that, we'll continue with the debate. But my understanding was this was far too serious than any other debate, that a responsible journalist doing this, misrepresenting, inciting people by saying somebody has been shot and he is dead when his tractor turned turtle.
No, so there are two things I wish to say. One, that Rajdeep has already clarified and apologized for the error. He deleted the tweet within minutes. And secondly, I can hardly answer for what Rajdeep did or did not do. When your guest comes on his show, he can ask him about it. More importantly, as far as the organization is concerned, and you ask what action was taken or whether cognizance was taken, it indeed was. The network is deeply apologetic for the fact that that tweet went out. It shouldn't have. And Rajdeep came on air and on Twitter to clarify what happened. That having been said, Gaurav, you haven't answered my question, which is why did you not have stronger security deployed on the ground to prevent these farmers, so-called farmers, from coming in? If they came in the way that they did, why were the paramilitary forces which have now been deployed not deployed in advance, Mr. Bhatia?
Yes, that I will answer, Rahul. I'm not running away from your question. So first of all, let me say this, Rahul, that in a democracy, rule of law has to prevail. And these people are definitely not farmers. They are masquerading as farmers, but they are closer to goons and antisocial elements. And you know, for a police...
And for the government also, it is a very difficult call to take. Because earlier, you remember, it was being said that this government is not engaging with the farmers, and why are they not being allowed inside Delhi and on the Republic Day itself? And our government and the police had reservations. But after certain assurances were given by the organization and 40-odd leaders, the conditional permission was given. All those conditions today have been flouted. Now, taking action like ordering firing, or for that matter, rubber bullet being fired, is a call that the police has to take, but it would have its result also. We might lose human life. So it's a difficult call to take, and that is why I would commend the kind of, restraint the police has shown today. And yes, in hindsight, one can say that, oh, why this was not done or that was not done. Say tomorrow, if the police actually fires and somebody dies, this very opposition will come out from the stand that they've taken that you're not engaging. They will say, oh, farmers are being attacked. So let us understand it was a very difficult situation to handle, but still the police did a commendable job, and now the Delhi police is going to crack down on all those people who have destroyed public property, who have eroded and they have destroyed the sanctity of the Red Fort by actually, unfurling another flag there. That much I can say. But a question also needs to be asked of the protesters that their leaders were missing today in action. They also need to take responsibility. Why did they not, take the route that was decided?
Abhijit Iyer, do you buy this argument of the BJP spokesperson that we took the farmer leaders at face value, that they promised us that there would be no violence, that they've kept their promises so far, they agreed on designated routes, therefore we had no reason to disbelieve them given the circumstances and their behavior so far? The Delhi police and the union government found nothing amiss, and therefore no greater preparations were needed in advance. Abhijit Iyer.
No, I absolutely do not, Rahul, and I'll tell you why. The farmers' conduct so far has been deceitful and disruptive since day one. Every single overture that the government put to them, they've been rejecting and consequently escalating their demands, number one. Number two, remember these these rioters, let's call them what they are. They're not protesters, they're rioters. They've been violating several laws since day one. First of all, they were blockading and disrupting traffic. Then when that didn't produce desired results, they went around uprooting telephone poles across the protest area. These people were engaging in criminality from day one. I think, and plus there were several intelligence inputs publicly, even on Twitter, saying that there's a video of Takat saying, don't you dare stop us, we'll go where we want. Okay, so there were enough intelligence inputs to show you that these people intended to violate. They negotiated in bad faith, and they were fundamentally untrustworthy. So I do not buy this argument that the government took them at face value. You can't take people like this at face value, and if you did, shame on you.
Can I respond to that?
Okay. I want to also get in a word from Maushmi Singh, as I said, it's not just about the debate, it's also about our reporters on the ground who've been tracking the story fearlessly at great risk to their life and limb. Maushmi is at the ITO Chowk this evening. Maushmi, describe, that's also where the Delhi police headquarters, a tough day for the Delhi police. I'm reading Arvind Oja's update which says 83 policemen are injured at this moment. What is the Delhi police saying? What is their strategy? How do they intend to deal with the violence that we saw across the capital today?
Rahul, all I can say is that the national capital is still reeling under the scenes that unfolded earlier in the day, and these pictures, they are unprecedented. We are on the nerve center of the national capital, and these scenes that you see at the crossroad is completely telling of what went on throughout the day. And the Delhi police was certainly at the receiving end. Dozens of police personnel have been admitted in hospitals. We saw throughout the day farmers, just running amok on roads to the Singhu border, violating the routes that were given. And at various points, we really thought that the police personnel were certainly deployed in lesser numbers, and that's more because they just went off the route that they had committed to the Delhi police. And apparently the Delhi police is investigating. They're going through all the CCTV footages to see who actually took identified those CCTV footages inspected, and we expect that the Delhi police will zeroing down on the unwanted.
So thanks, Maushmi, for that update. Raghav Chadda, I want to ask you about, what we heard from Gaurav Bhatia, that they revealed that the police and the government took the farmers at face value. So far they'd been non-violent, and therefore, what happened is unfortunate, but don't blame the union government. This is despite their best efforts, not because of. Raghav Chadda.
So Rahul, a couple of quick points. First of all, this movement has been going on for more than 65 days. And you and I both know that this movement has been extremely peaceful and disciplined until now. In fact, the four pillars on which the success of this movement and this Andolan was built was peace, harmony, non-violence, and non-partisanship. That is, they did not allow any political party or any politician on their stage. However, it appears that certain anti-social elements, certain lumpen elements infiltrated into the movement and orchestrated this violence, which needs to be condemned. It absolutely needs to be condemned by every right-thinking individual. I do also believe, Rahul, that the central government, the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government, has miserably failed on two counts. Count number one, that is, they have failed to agree to absolutely legitimate demands of the struggling farmers. And second is failing to maintain law and order. All of us know that in Delhi, law and order, Delhi police, etc., is fairly and squarely with the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Home Minister is himself responsible for, maintaining peace and harmony and order in Delhi. What has happened today also shows that the union government has miserably failed. And I have no hesitation in saying, Rahul, that what has happened today, apart from condemning it, I do also believe that this has to some extent weakened the movement. And it has weakened, the cause of the farmers. And I only hope that this infiltration of lumpen...
So let Avik Saha respond to that, because he's part of the farmers union. That there was a certain Gaurav, I'm coming back to you, but I want to go across to the man who represents the farmer unions, because so far, even if people don't understand the nuances of the farming seasons in India, there was a certain underlying sympathy that these protesting farmers had, because they were out in the cold. People wanted agriculture reform, but they were feeling bad for the farmers. In the manner in which this chaos, this violence was unleashed in the streets of the national capital, that element of empathy amongst the non-agrarian sections of our society is now completely finished. And for that, the blame must rest to a great extent on the farmer unions and their leaders, who can't now wash their hands off and say, कि हमारा इससे कोई लेना देना नहीं, we don't know who these people are, we don't know how they ran amok.
Is there a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, Abhik Saha, go on.
Yes, I can hear you very faintly. Nobody is running away from anything. We haven't traveled all this way to Delhi to run away from anything. What happened today was not planned by the farmers' unions. It was wrong, we condemn it, we distance ourselves from it, and we are having meetings as we speak to understand how this indiscipline crept in. Those who are part of this indiscipline will not be part of the farmers' movement, because the farmers' movement needs to move forward with peace and discipline if it wants to achieve its targets. We are very clear on this. And this is not a statement, this is not rhetoric, this is an article of faith on which we built this movement. And it's visible. There are tons of examples to show you.
How do I, one second. This is very convenient, Mr. Saha. How do people who are watching at this time trust you? How do we not know? Going up, aage jao, up karo, we'll stand at the back and we'll pretend we had no idea. You're part of the same agitation. How can you now with a poker force say that none of these people are known to us? We don't know why they did what they did. In the manner in which the chaos and the violence ensued, it seemed like it was a deeply thought out strategy. It didn't suddenly happen. It wasn't the odd tractor guy who ran amok. There was a whole concerted action which was playing itself out in a planned manner.
I wish you hadn't spoken for me. I didn't say I don't know these people. We are identifying who these people are. We of course know who these people are. And they will not be part of the movement. That's what I said. We also are curious to know why certain very prominent BJP leaders were there at the Red Fort with that flag. However, today is not the day to debate this. What has happened should not have happened, unequivocally. And the farmers' movement has suffered because of it. We've worked very hard for 6 months to reach this point. We didn't want one day of bravado to spoil and suffer like this. We are going back to the drawing board. We will come up with a plan. It will be completely peaceful. Those who want to break discipline, break rank, and be heroes for momentary joy and 30 seconds in the limelight, this movement has no place for them. This movement is for long-term benefit of farmers. This is not for heroics and adventure. We are very clear on that. We are ashamed, actually.
Okay, I want to show our viewers how the farmer unions are now split. How they're blaming one particular faction and saying that they're the ones who did this violence. We have nothing to do with it. They're making it seem as if their plan all this while was to ensure that this stays non-violent, and there's this one fringe element, one faction or one union that went rogue. Take a look at this report.
Vandalism, violence, clashes, and chaos. As scenes of all-out anarchy spilled onto the heart of national capital, farmer unions sitting on protest for over 2 months appeared on the back foot. With rampaging mobs running amok on Delhi streets, farmer leaders were seen passing the buck.
एक जो लाल किले पे सुना है दीप संधू वहां पे थे। अब दीप संधू वो व्यक्ति हैं जिसको किसान आंदोलन ने पहले दिन से बाहर रखा है। सिंघू बॉर्डर, वो शंभू बॉर्डर जो था, वहां पे इन्होंने मोर्चा लगाया था और इनकी गतिविधियों और इनके विचारों को देखते हुए किसान आंदोलन ने बिल्कुल स्पष्ट फैसला किया था कि ऐसे अलगाववादी लोगों से हमें कोई संबंध नहीं रखना है। जिसकी तरफ से भी ऐसी कोई हरकत हुई है, वो हरकत अशोभनीय है, निंदनीय है और वो शर्मनाक है।
Farmer unions that had made tall promises to ensure peaceful protests distanced themselves from the violence, fearing a massive self-hold. Sanyukt Kisan Morcha, the umbrella body of 41 agitating unions, blamed anti-social elements and pointed fingers at Kisan Mazdoor Sangharsh Committee and BKU Ugrahan, blaming them for breaking barricades and indulging in rioting.
ये जो लोग गया था, ये किसान आंदोलन का हिस्सा नहीं है। ये कोई साजिश का एक हिस्सा है और इतना शांतिपूर्ण आंदोलन 100 साल में भारत में हुआ नहीं। हमारा ऊपर सरकार हमला करने का कोई मौका नहीं मिल रहा है, वो उसको मदद करने वाला कुछ साजिश का बात आ रहा था।
Some farmer leaders even alleged a political conspiracy behind the violence.
अभी बताया जा रहा है, लोग आरोप लगा रहे हैं आपके ऊपर कि किसान नेता जो लोग ये पूरे आंदोलन को चला रहे थे उनके बस में ये आंदोलन नहीं रहा।
नहीं, बस में है हमारे बस में है आंदोलन। हमको पता है कि किन किन लोग जो गड़बड़ फैलाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वे सब लोग चिन्हित हैं जो गड़बड़ करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
कुछ लोग हैं आंदोलन?
हाँ, है चिन्हित है। पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के लोग हैं वे, और वे इस आंदोलन को खराब करना चाहते हैं।
One thing is clear, the anarchy that India saw on streets of capital on Republic Day has severely damaged the prospects of peaceful protests that lasted for over 2 months. With Aishwarya Paliwal and Kumar Kunal, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what should happen from here on? You've got a situation where these tractors have now returned largely to the borders, and that's where they intend to stay. And on the 1st of February, they've announced that they want to gherao Parliament. After what's happened, Gaurav Bhatia, how will the government's approach to these protesting farmers and these unions and their demands change? Do you intend to continue the same, let's talk and see if we can find a resolution, or will the government now be far more tough in its stance with their demands?
So, Rahul, I'll come to your question and answer it, but let me just respond to first the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson. You know, look at the hypocrisy. This is the same Delhi government that has implemented one of the laws and has notified it on 22nd of November 2020. Second, Arvind Kejriwal should know better. What about the fundamental duties? He was saying law and order is, the central government's responsibility. What about health? COVID time is still there. We are still, trying to ensure that nobody gets infected with COVID. Why couldn't the Chief Minister also make an appeal that please don't enter? Why not Captain Amrinder Singh joining Arvind Kejriwal say that if you have to protest, please protest locally in the designated sites? They did not stop. And third and most importantly, look at, the way this anarchist group is coming forward to not have respect for the laws that have been duly passed in the parliament. The BJP got 303 seats. We passed the laws. Now, whether they are constitutional or unconstitutional can only be decided by the Supreme Court and the High Court. And otherwise, if we have faulted...
Mr. Bhatia, can I draw you to my question? You're going off on a tangent. I need you, and one second, I don't appreciate this because you must answer. No, one second. I'm the moderator. I will control this debate, and the panelists are requested to respond to the question that they've been asked. We'll come back to you, Mr. Chadha. You do, but that has to be a short, concise. One second. Both faders go down. Gaurav Bhatia, I very happily extended you the right to respond, but it cannot be a 3-minute answer. We're tight on time. Our viewers' time is precious. We need to move the pedal. You need to respond to how, on the back of the violence that we've seen, the government's approach to these farmers changes. Gaurav Bhatia.
Yes. So, Rahul, I'm replying to your question now. Yesterday, the Agriculture Minister made it very clear that so far, the talks were, heading in the right direction. But then you can't have this approach of my way or the highway. And the farmer organizations, the so-called farmer organizations, also made, a statement that we will not accept anything short of a repeal. Now, this is not the kind of approach you'll have. So, now the government and the Delhi police will take action against the violators, people who are destroying public property, and nobody is above the law of the country. These people need to be punished, and very categorically I can say this is a government which will take punitive action against any person who tries to, violate the integrity of our country. And today, whatever has happened, the political parties in the opposition are equally to be blamed, just like the anarchists who were masquerading.
Okay, Raghav Chadha wants to come in and make a response, and I will give him a fair but short opportunity to do so, Mr. Chadha.
Well, first of all, Rahul, on the point of constitutionality of the bill. I don't think anybody is questioning the constitutionality of the bill. Supreme Court has certainly all the powers to pronounce any law constitutional or unconstitutional. However, the entire farmer movement is based on the merits of the law, on the wisdom of the law, and how a law which may even be constitutional is detrimental to the interest of the farmers, and therefore there is no interference or this thing of the Supreme Court that is actually required in the matter. What is required is that the legislature, the parliament acts, they have enacted the law and they withdraw the law, and I'm pretty sure Gaurav Bhatia, being a lawyer, understands this. Number two, he is very clever trying to obfuscate the issue and has started referring to COVID-19 and health issues, so on and so forth.
Why not?
The fact is that law and order in Delhi is fairly and squarely with the Home Minister of India, and if law and order situation is prevailing in the city, then he himself is responsible and the BJP is responsible, and they are responsible for the plight of the farmers. They are responsible why farmers have been pushed into a corner and have now resorted to conducting tractor rallies, so on and so forth. So if there is one political outfit that needs to be blamed for the chaos of Delhi, it is the BJP. I don't know what will it take, how many more lives of innocent farmers and policemen will it take for the BJP to realize that they must not make this an ego battle.
Okay, Abhijit Iyer, before Gaurav Bhatia responds, how do you think the union government should deal with these protesting farmers? And I want to explain the challenges the government faces. These are not a couple of dozen or a couple of hundred farmers. Our reporters tell us that some of these tractors go all the way to Sonipat, Panipat. I mean, they're like 2 or 3 hours where if you would travel ordinarily, roads full of tractors. That's the kind of mobilization that we're dealing with. So if you say just wish them away or push them back, that's very difficult. Given this reality, how do you believe the union government should deal with these protesting farmers from here on? Abhijit Iyer.
Look, the point here is of collective responsibility and command responsibility. Okay, you can't say that ye log hamare nahi the and some of these people were ours. Unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the entire movement now stands tainted by some of these people who incidentally the leadership knew about, who have engaged in violent behavior before. Number one. Number two, you have crimes of commission and errors of omission. The government is responsible of errors of omission, and the rioters are responsible for crimes of commission. This is number two. Now, coming to your question of how to deal with them, the answer is really very simple. What we have seen today is rioting, and what you needed was brute force, and what you did not use was brute force. All unpunished incitements to insurrection are fundamentally called rehearsals. They come back, and they come back a lot worse because they blow up in your face. Rahul, if you remember, I was on your program when the Seelampur riots broke out, when Shaheen Bagh was happening, and if you remember, even then I was cautioning that if you allowed that kind of illegality of blocking roads to continue indefinitely, it was going to blow up into riots, and the Delhi riots eventuated. I have been warning for the past months that if the blockades
Mr. Bhatia, you want to respond to the likes of Abhijit Iyer?
Absolutely.
Blow up into riots, and that is what has happened.
There should have been a stronger response.
What you need was force. Why was it okay to shoot down Guru Ram Rahim supporters, but not okay to shoot down these thugs who came and defiled the national flag today?
Okay, can I respond to it? You know, the points that Abhijit is
yes,
making...
Mr. Bhatia, you must. Now respond. One second. Respond to the question that you're being asked. Don't go off on any other question, Mr. Bhatia.
I'm not going. I want to respond to what he said. You know, like Abhijit, I'm sure there would be many other citizens who feel the same, that the government should have cracked down immediately, and, you know, there shouldn't be any dialogue, and they should be cracking down on those people. Can you hear me? I think my connection has gone off.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I got another call.
I hear you well. Go on.
Yeah. So all that I want to say is, you know, the police and the government also face a challenge. You know, you can be very, very tough also, but then certain people will feel that dialogue didn't take place. In a healthy democracy, there should be place for dialogue. And the government has this approach of actually engaging with this handful farmers, and we reached to a certain, you know, level also. But now after today, what has been done by these rioters, because these are not farmers, definitely the government and the police will re-strategize and will crack down on these people, because it seems that, you know, having a dialogue is being taken as being weak. And we are not weak. We have the support of all farmers and every countryman. And therefore, you would see in the future that these people will be punished in accordance with law very soon.
Okay. Okay, so I want to show you now some of the most painful scenes which ensued at the Red Fort, one of the premier symbols of modern India. This is where every Independence Day the Prime Minister so proudly unfurls the Indian tricolour. Today the tricolour was fluttering, but there were other flags as well, flags which had absolutely no business being hoisted on and near the ramparts of the Red Fort. What we had was the unimaginable scene of these unruly supposed farmer protesters coming in and virtually for several hours taking over the Red Fort.
The most defining image of the large-scale clashes and chaos that shamed India on 72nd Republic Day. The podium on the ramparts of Red Fort, where the Prime Minister unfurls the tricolour every year on August 15th. But on Tuesday, it was completely taken over by an unruly mob of vandals posing as farmers. The Red Fort was overrun by unruly mob that entered the monumental complex through its public entrance. Moments later, a swarm of protesters had taken over the Red Fort gallery, shouting slogans, brandishing swords, trying to unfurl the saffron Nishan Sahib where the national flag flutters. It seemed like nothing was sacred for the mob. They went a step ahead to desecrate the Red Fort by climbing on its dome. The confrontation with the police lasted for hours.
एक और चीज देखिए, पुलिस सुरक्षा बल वहां पर ऊपर चढ़ रहे हैं. देखिए मैं दिखाना चाहूंगी, यहाँ पर ये बहुत अहम है. अगर किसानों ने चढ़ के तिरंगा अपना निशान साहब और किसानों का झंडा लगाया, तो यहाँ पर पुलिस बल ऊपर चढ़ रहे हैं उस झंडे को उतारने के लिए, और नीचे से जोर से हूटिंग हो रही है कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, आप नहीं उतार सकते. वो सुरक्षा बल जैसे तैसे ऊपर चढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहा है, लेकिन देखिए तालियों के साथ अब यहाँ पर एक कंपटीशन वाली भावना आ गई है. हमने लगाया, आप उतार कर दिखा दीजिए, है हिम्मत तो उतारिए. कुछ इस तरह की फीलिंग यहाँ पर है. देखिए हूटिंग लगातार यहाँ पर हो रही है.
A group of policemen tried, but could not remove the Nishan Sahib. The mob laid siege to the historic 17th century structure for hours in a monumental show of anarchy and lawlessness. Bureau Report, India Today.
I'm going to be taking a very quick break right now. When I come back, we'll focus on what would probably otherwise have been the showcase of today's Republic Day, the grand march past, very different from usual, and the fly past of the Rafale fighter jets for the first time at a Republic Day parade. We'll get you those stunning pictures on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us. Back in a moment.